Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah, and welcome back to TLC Next Updates. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you're ready for the latest updates on Sister Wives. Paedon Brown recently spoke out on the disintegration of his plural marriages and gave a shocking explanation behind it. In his opinion, his intense emotional involvement with Robyn was the reason all the other relationships ended. He admitted that his passion for Robyn has never wavered, hence why he's happy to remain monogamous. But Robyn's got a different point of view. In an emotional one-on-one with Sukanya Krishnan, she opened up that this is not the life she signed up for. She had dreamed of being a member of a big, close-knit family, and said that, although she's willing to have more sister wives in the future, Cody is sufficient for her at the moment. At the same time, Mary made it known that she is single and does not wish to date. However, she reaffirmed her faith in polygamy by saying that it happens only when each one involved is equally committed. Janelle felt the same. She is still open to the idea, but confessed she doesn't think it will ever happen for her again. Christine is completely done, however. During a 2023 interview with Us Weekly, she explained that she's completely invested in her relationship with David Woolley and has no interest in going back to the drama of a plural marriage. In the Tell-All special, David Woolley did not mince his words when it came to Cody. He labeled Cody as manipulative, not only with Christine, but with all of his wives. David accused Cody of feeding off the fighting among the women and said that what was not polygamy was the method Cody used it for to suit himself. From his own experience with sisters who were polygamous, David contended that it's the men who destroy it. He asserted that numerous polygamous husbands pit wives against one another to satisfy their egos, eventually destroying them. According to him, Cody's selfishness and refusal to be responsible were the primary causes of the collapse of the family. Even so, Cody still won't take complete responsibility. He asserted that it was his wives who transformed once they left him, becoming cold and hostile. He averred that he simply reacted to their negativity and that he truly wishes to move on and be joyful. Nowadays, Cody is enjoying a more subdued existence. He's made it plain that he has no desire to marry again or go back to plural ways. Robyn, the remaining wife, seems to be staying with him even if it's not exactly the life she had envisioned. When asked flat out if he would ever even think about polygamy again, Cody's response was adamant. Hell no. He conceded that the whole experience hurt and disillusioned him. I'm done. I don't want the hassle. I don't want to go after another woman. That's just not where I am, he stated. And yet, he had no regrets. He told his producers he was thankful for the journey, thankful for the children he has, thankful for the relationships he's had. Robyn, however, admitted that things did not go as planned. She declared, I had a different plan for my life. I was going to be part of a big family. But now, with the other wives out of the picture, that is no longer an option. The question now is, what is in store for Cody and Robyn? I've lived in a plural marriage and feel like I've been robbed of that experience, Robyn confessed. Still, she affirmed her unwavering loyalty to Cody, saying he is enough for her and that she will continue to stand by his values. No matter what has happened, she made it clear she would never trade her husband for anything. Her words provided a glimpse into the naked emotional currents that eventually unraveled a once cohesive home, once bound together by common faith and spiritual beliefs. At the nexus of this disintegration is Paedon Brown, who recently gave a blunt explanation for why his relationships fell apart. He confessed that his strong emotional bond with one specific partner, Robyn, was the real watershed. Although once a proponent of plural marriage, Cody recognized his relationship with Robyn disrupted the delicate equilibrium required for polygamy to thrive. That intimacy made it impossible to ensure equality and fairness with his other wives emotionally. Consequently, he has now embraced a monogamous existence, feeling deeply satisfied and grounded in an exclusive one relationship. Something entirely different from the complicated family setup he used to maintain. But at a moment of weakness, Robyn disclosed an opposing reality. In a tearful interview, she expressed that this isn't her life plan. She had wanted to belong to a dynamic family, a sisterhood founded on bonding, cooperation, and mutual responsibilities. While she feels presently emotionally satisfied with her husband, She remains attached to the notion of having more children in the future. But there was sadness in her tone, a whispered grief for something that never existed. The former women involved in that spiritual plural marriage have all ended up leading extremely different lives since leaving. One of the previous wives, a very determined woman who is well aware of herself, is now enjoying single life. She explained she is not looking for romance, but still upholds the fundamental ethics behind spiritual plural marriage. To her, the blueprint only succeeds when each person gives their best commitment, and without the balance, everything collapses. Another ex-wife, who is respected for her independence of spirit and practicality, concurred. Although she hasn't fully closed the door on plural marriage, she did say that she doesn't envision a return to it in the near future. The emotional strain and logistical hurdles of returning to that sort of framework are just too daunting at present. Her previous experience left deep scars, and healing is still in progress. Then there's the woman whose leaving shook the foundation of the family. Her leaving was all about taking back her peace, her voice, and her future. She desired a relationship based on mutual respect, emotional security, and actual partnership. When she crossed paths with another individual, someone who put her first in every way, she knew she wasn't returning to the devastation of shared love. In a candid interview to national media, she clarified that embracing monogamy had nothing to do with turning her back on her past. It was all about embracing her now, her value, and her new life. On a recent TV discussion, her latest partner, a man informed by his own life of seeing polygamy play out among his own kin, spoke with unruffled fervor. His language was straightforward, his voice unbroken. He criticized publicly Cody's actions, blaming him for dominating every relationship he had ever been in. He refuted the claim that polygamy itself is broken. Rather, he claimed the problem was not in the form, but in the leadership. He feels that bad leadership, and not plural marriage, is what led it to collapse. And for that, he laid the blame squarely at the man who was once at the center of the Brown family. He once called himself the spiritual head of the family, but actually did not provide fair or equitable guidance. Rather than fostering harmony, he appeared to live by conflict, using emotional detachment and favoritism as weapons of control. Instead of providing equal love to all his wives, he engineered a situation where love was something to be attained, where women were made to subtly compete for his love. This situation contrasted sharply with the religious ideals their family professes to believe in. In the opinion of Christine's new partner, this behavior was not just unhealthy, it was based on self-interest, not religious zeal. He had witnessed the darker side of polygamy up close. Having grown up around such dynamics, his own family members had gone through the same types of relationships, and at a young age, he had observed a commonality. A lot of the men in those families wanted praise and devotion over everything else. To keep them in line, they planted discord among their women. And in his opinion, this is what precisely had occurred to the Brown family. It wasn't plural marriage that had failed, it was the man who headed it. When these allegations were presented to Cody, he dodged. He pinned the blame on his ex-wives, and they were bitter and argumentative after abandoning the family. He claimed that their actions, not his, led to the collapse. He pushed back at being emotionally remote and unfair, claiming that he had merely responded to their negativity. In the process, though, he discounted years of unbalanced emotional investment, blatant favoritism, and lack of accountability. He ignored the emotional harm his actions had inflicted and refused to see the cost to the women who had shared his life. Their exoduses weren't motivated by mutiny. They were the consequences of decades of emotional neglect, misunderstanding, and displacement. The collapse of their formerly fated family didn't need to occur. It wasn't a collapse of polygamy in theory, but of the balance, respect, and harmony necessary to implement it. A spiritually focused family demands more than ceremonies or common beliefs. It takes mutual responsibility, equal dedication, and emotional equity. When one relationship is all the focus and energy, the others just can't help but die. The days of communal meals, joint parenting, and forced harmony are far behind him now. The man who used to boast of presiding over a large, non-traditional family has come to a much more subdued place in life. After decades of dealing with the emotional intricacies of plural marriage, he's taken a simpler route, Where there were once fuzzy boundaries and open-ended relationships, he now has strict boundaries. The single woman who had once represented the future of their growing family, Robyn, is the only one left. She has watched, bit by bit, the destruction of a dream she had clung to. Her faith in a successful, intact plural family had been solid, even as those around her started to doubt it. But now, in the quiet that is left, she is paired not with a sisterhood, but alone, with a single man. The vision of a bustling home filled with mutual laughter and meaning has withered, and there is left only an affinity between two individuals who had expected much more from their lives. In a recent interview, Cody spoke about all that he's left behind. His voice was unhesitant. He spoke clearly. He's no longer looking for more wives. That book, he said, is shut. He acknowledged that the experience of plural marriage had left deep scars, and he would never walk the same road again. It failed, he said definitively. I won't go down that path again. It's not where my heart is anymore. In previous interviews, Cody likened the breakdown of his plural life to being struck by an unexpected emotional whirlwind, one that left him dazed and hurt. For a man who once was the beacon of spiritual oneness, shared living, and the ideals of family growth, this concession was a striking change. What had been a promise-filled vision has now become a lesson about boundaries, limits, and releasing. Cody's tone has definitely changed. Though he no longer justifies the life he lived before with the same passion, he doesn't dismiss it either. There is still a subdued respect for the journey amidst the regret and resignation in his tone. He clings to the relationships that colored his life, particularly the ones that provided him with his numerous offspring, whom he still deeply loves. And despite the results not living up to his initial aspirations, he speaks about great appreciation for having the experience itself. At his side is now the woman who entered his life with visions of a future full of sister wives and joint dreams. She had envisioned having a big family together, hand in hand with others who had their same beliefs. But today, she is the sole survivor. During her recent interview, she had a softness in her voice, a touch of sadness. I thought I'd be one of many, she replied, sharing joy, responsibilities, building a life based on faith and family. That dream, though once so vibrant, has dissolved. Left now is a quieter, more solitary life, but her dedication never faltered. Despite the fact that the life she now leads is a far cry from what she had planned, she remains steadfast, not in anger or denial, but acceptance. He is enough, she breathed. Her voice contained no resentment. She still beholds him the man she had selected, the companion she remained loyal to when the family was intact. And even though the world they constructed together has altered, her allegiance continues. Around them, the whispers of a broken family linger. The women who had shared houses, laughter, and worries have now created their own lives, each reshaping her own identity outside of the structure they had known. One of them, the first to commit to him many years ago, has now opted for solitude. She's retreated inward, opting for introspection and healing rather than re-engaging in the dating scene. Her belief in plural marriage is still there, but she confesses that it only functions when each individual offers his or her complete emotional commitment. Acquiring that truth was expensive for her on a personal level. Another ex-wife has shared similar sentiments. Although she has not closed the door on having a shared relationship in the future, she realizes that the past is still too fresh. The emotional wounds have yet to heal, and beginning anew seems remote and unclear. And then there's the woman who has wholeheartedly accepted a new chapter in love. She found her joy with someone outside of polygamy, someone who values her as a priority, not a partner in a joint agreement. Her journey these days is one of self-worth, healing, and happiness. It's a celebration of where she is now, not a rejection of where she came from. With the new man in her life, she has learned again the value of mutual respect and personal development. That ally, while new to the intricacies of plural marriage, has not withheld his opinion. In a public outing recently, he pontificated openly about the dynamics that once characterized his wife's previous home. He blamed her former husband for planting discord and emotional unbalance to secure control. To him, the disintegration of the family was not a failure of the plural system, but a failure of leadership. He feels that the core figure was more interested in having dominance rather than empathy, and this led to cycles of competition and jealousy. In his own childhood, observing family members having multiple marriages, he noticed how frequently it was men who disrupted the system. "The men destroy it," he said. "They establish a battleground and then take a step back and let the women fight for love and attention." In his opinion, the collapse of the big family was due to the lack of emotional responsibility. When the same person wields all the power and none of the responsibility, the framework can't hold. And that, he believed, is precisely what caused the ultimate breakdown. He contended that it's almost impossible to construct a healthy family organization under the type of emotional imbalance he experienced. He identified a pattern, one characterized by avoidance, favoritism, and lack of accountability. And yet, in the midst of the withering criticism directed toward him, the man at the center of the controversy has demonstrated little readiness to accept full responsibility. He tends to portray himself as the victim in his own public musings more than the source of the collapse. In an interview on his recent broadcast, he explained his side of what happened. "I didn't begin bitter," he told them. "They grew hurtful, and I responded." According to him, his former wives altered once they walked out, and their cutting remarks and public jabs led him to construct emotional walls. His actions were defensive, he felt, his way of defending himself from deceit. But for most watchers, and even a few of his old family members, that rationale doesn't quite ring true. They watch a different narrative play out, one of decades' worth of emotional abandonment, of women who quietly endured as they attempted to keep their families intact. The choices to leave were not based on one moment of drama, but on a gradual breakdown of trust and intimacy over the years. Every woman's exit was a last resort after decades of not being heard, not being supported, and not being valued. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more daily news about sister wives and your favorite TLC tales. See you later.